A young man is killed in Georgia in February, but we're just now hearing about it. Cinco de Mayo is causing a weird reaction on Facebook. Some people aren't happy about the Mexican flag being flown in the streets. You're not going to want to miss that discussion. And also, businesses are keeping too close of tabs on their employees. We're going to talk about that tonight. That's Chris. I'm Micah. This is the Daily Radical.
Ladies and gentlemen, how we doing here today? Welcome to the Daily Radical, your one-stop shop for what is going on with culture, with church, what's happening in this crazy time. As my co-host here said before, I'm Chris. That is Micah. For those of you new to the channel, if you're new to the channel, please, if you're on the YouTube watching, hit that subscribe button right there below so you can stay connected and up to date with all the Daily Radical episodes coming out weekly. And also, we are streaming on Spotify as well for those podcasters out there and really anywhere you get your podcast feed. So again, hit us up, subscribe button on the YouTube and follow us on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast feed. And we're excited to be with you today. Looking forward to a great show. Micah, how are we doing today, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. God is good, as our bishop
Amen.
says. I am blessed, and it is it's exciting. It's an interesting time right now. People are, it's just a weird, still weird time. We're still locked down in COVID, but I feel like that it's getting ready to break up. And I'm doing well, feeling good.
Yeah, I'm ready to break up with COVID right now.
I'm ready to break off this relationship.
You said blessed, and you hear a word, it's like a trigger thought. And I remember, I think his name is Julian Smith. He was like a Christian comedian. He always like little like mini videos, and so he had his whole little like skit thing of pre-blessed food. It's like microwave food, blessed, pre-blessed. So. Yes. It is still important you pray for your food beforehand, especially now with COVID going on.
Absolutely.
Please, Lord Jesus, let me not get COVID, 19 today at your meal. So, joking aside, many of you out there are going through some really challenging times during this COVID. We're with you. Our prayers go out to you. Again, here the Day Radical, reach out, tell us your story. Tell us a story. I wanted to bring up two real quick. We had a hit up on our Instagram. We got a direct message from an actual frontline worker that listens to the show. And, where she's at particular, she was mentioning that, it's in her particular area, it's not as, and again, I won't get too deep into this, but not as intense. It's actually been very quiet, and very frustrating in her particular department. They had vamped up for this great kind of pandemic type of rush, and again, she said, nothing happened. And so she had a few things to say about this as a frontline worker. Again, going back to, if you have not heard episode 9, we talked about this a little bit, kind of where we're at in this COVID-19, government maybe overreaching, your thoughts.
Definitely overreaching.
Yeah, exactly. I was careful on that one, but definitely overreaching. And we're hearing more health professionals come out who are actually in the mix of it saying, listen, we're not going to deny this is definitely something going on, but to the magnitude that the media is portraying it, we'll talk differently. And the approach to overcome this thing is wildly different than shutting down America. And so, again, check out episode 9, past episodes, and let's jump into what we got today.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously COVID-19 has taken up a lot of the kind of attention of our conversations, but this week, crazy story broke. We mentioned in the beginning, and we have to start here. If you're on Facebook, if you've been on Facebook this week, it's been an absolute firestorm. Young man, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, Ahmed Arbery. Might have gotten that wrong. He was killed. He was shot and killed back in February. And I'm sure by now you've seen all the news reports and everything. And just today, they arrested 2 men charged with the murder, a father and a son. And but this happened in February. And so if you were watching on if you're paying attention, what ended up happening is a video came out this week capturing the final moments in the altercation. And basically, a young man was jogging. Ahmed was jogging. As his family said, it was a regular jog that he did every day. And he was jogging through this neighborhood in Georgia. And these two individuals thought that he was a burglar. Like somehow, like I guess there's been some burglaries that, to their testimony, there were burglaries happening in that neighborhood. And they thought he was the guy. And so,
Wow.
and so they grabbed their guns, because that's what you do when you're going to confront someone that's a burglar.
Wow.
And they chased him down in their truck, cut him off, and then ended up shooting him. And so the crazy part about, of course, all this is that people immediately jump to, Black Lives Matter, and the police are, racist, and it's systemic racism everywhere, and all this stuff. Well, the truth of the matter is that undoubtedly there were racist people involved in this. But to suggest that this is proof of systemic racism, I think it actually goes in the opposite direction. I think what we're seeing now is the exact opposite of what so many people had been telling us for years, that America's racist. It's in the system. It's in the blood. No, I think America has some racist people that live in it, and that maybe even some are in the police department and in government. That might be the case, but at its core, we're not a racist nation, because you're seeing justice happen right now. And you say, wow, why did it take so long? Well, it took so long is because we needed evidence. You still need evidence to convict, and people are still innocent to proven guilty. So I know there's a lot of opinions out there. A lot of people have a lot to say, but I look at this as, obviously it's a horrible situation, but it does, in fact, as of today, it does in fact look like justice is being done. And I think it's going to be at least the best that we could hope for a young man who was 24 years old. From all accounts, everything that we've seen so far, he was on a jog. He was not armed. He didn't have any possessions on him. He was running. He was jogging. And it is unfortunate that it took this long for there to be an arrest. But thankfully, it's 2020 and cell phones are everywhere. So kind of a crazy story, but I think it flies in the face of this narrative of systemic racism in America today. So I thought that was interesting tonight.
Yeah. No, I mean, the fact that, 2 months later, and then people, automatically when, a black, gentleman, dies, at the hands of a white Caucasian, it was racism, they're going to get away with it. This is not right. And this, just kind of this big explosion happens, before anything can kind of really be settled. And we see in this situation that, like you said, justice have been served. These men went out, and there's several things to point out with this. And you don't go, we're not vigilantes out there. Okay.
Right.
We have a right as American people to right to bear arms. And if someone enters to our home, and each state is different, some allow, if they're on your property, and depending on your state, but here in California, a little bit stricter. In Georgia's laws, I'm not sure what it is over there, but maybe a little bit more loose. But we have that right to protect our home, right to bear arms. Someone breaks in as a threat, we have that right. But to go down and hunt somebody down, even if they were, I mean, this is like, it doesn't matter what color it may be. This is something that is a huge, and anybody who is a respectful, law-abiding gun holder, the gun's the last resort. And so for these men to, number one, take, law into their own hands, hunt a man down, corner him, and then kill him without anything, it's just atrocious. I mean, just think about it. There's so many things wrong with this story, so many things wrong. And the video goes, the family testifies that this young man jogged every single day. He was going about his day like any other day. And here he goes, the day that, these people think, okay, now I'm going to take care of business. And you should take care of your home. You should take care of your community. You should watch out for each other.
Right.
But I think anybody across the board would agree to go and hunt someone down. As frustrated as all of us get, to go to that extreme, it's just, I think we'll hear more about this as this unravels. But man, that is something beyond right now.
Yeah, and what's irritating to me is that, of course, you start this narrative, and the Black Lives Matter movement and all this stuff. And it immediately starts a narrative that suggests that this is happening every single day. LeBron James comes out in a statement. He says, black people are hunted down every single day, every time they go outside. It's absolute nonsense. Nonsense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can attest, I am black. I've never been hunted down.
Yeah.
Like, never. Like, it's never happened to me. Right? Now, is that to suggest that it never happens? Of course not. However, it's happened in other cases where non-black individuals have been shot, right? That's happened. And it's happened more cases. This is the problem. Unfortunately, this happened. It was a tragedy. We're not taking anything away from it. But if LeBron James wants to be honest, black men are more likely to be shot by another black man than they are shot by a white man.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. That's what the data supports. And it's irritating, and it's very frustrating, because we keep painting this picture that, like, somehow that black people, that we're still trying to overcome in America. Like, you're not going to find a bigger supporter of a civil rights movement. I believed in it. I still, like, I think it was one of the most heroic movements of American history, during our time. However, like, we made it through. Like, I'm not trying to overcome anymore. Because of the people that came before me, I'm blessed to live in a nation that I don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about laws, Jim Crow laws, that are going to permit officers and judges and people in authority to persecute me or kill me or to lock me up just based on the color of my skin. The fact of the matter is, whether this guy is white, black, whatever his color is, he deserves justice. It really doesn't matter. A hate crime is a hate crime. We have Jews being persecuted every single day in this country, and we have black people being persecuted. But you know what? It happens, and look, it's being taken care of. Like, it's going to get fixed.
Yeah.
So you say, well, what about if they all the people that are killed and they don't get justice? Unfortunately, you still have to have evidence. Like, that's still important.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, not downplaying anybody that was killed or kidnapped or whatever that we don't know about. I'm not saying their lives don't matter. What I'm saying is that in America, the system is built in such a way, it's not racist, it's not systemic. Black people are not being hunted down. It's utterly ridiculous. I take offense to that. As a black man, I'm offended by that. I think that's ridiculous. And the fact that these guys get away with saying it, I think is deplorable. I honestly, I can't stand stuff like that. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Here's a thought, talking about our current time, talking about the future, talking about, one day rapture of the church and the second coming of Jesus Christ. Let's talk about before that.
Yeah.
Do you think, in your opinion, that we will ever, as long as human beings are will we ever get away from racism?
No, we won't.
I'm not talking just in America, because America, and I'm talking globally. As a human race, I personally think that there'll always be racism, there'll always be prejudice, and those of you who say, oh, no, I'm not prejudiced. If you ever thought twice about somebody, you ever got nervous because you saw someone of a different ethnicity, if you've ever been to an airport or saw someone possibly from a Middle Eastern country and thought, oh no, you're nervous, you're prejudiced. Okay.
Sure.
If you ever been somewhere and maybe it was a Hispanic or African-American or of just anybody, you were thinking twice, maybe lock your doors. And there's wisdom, but there's a level of prejudice there.
Sure.
And so, I want to talk about this a little bit. Do we think that we would ever get away from racism? Okay.
Let me just, because I'll push back on that a little bit. So I don't think that's always
We're not always
racism.
Cordial on this show here. We're not always cordial. Okay, let's go back and forth a little bit here.
Well, okay, I don't think that's always racism, right? Okay. Now, for instance, if you are, it's not so much racism if you, like, let's say you spot someone coming at your car, late at night or coming up behind you late at night, right? Like you're getting in your car, you're like, and you're in a rough city or a rough part of the country. Their color is irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not. So it's a matter of, you're not being racist by, thinking, is this person like, you know what I mean? I live in a pretty rough city. We've mentioned it before. Stockton, California is a pretty rough city. The other day I was with my family and a couple drove up. They were a white couple, and they drove up, and they wanted to ask us a question about where a trail was. We were at our house, or whatever. We're at my mother's house actually, and they have a trail back there. But they pulled up, and they came up pretty quick, and we're in Stockton.
They came up hot.
They came up hot, in their Toyota Camry. You know what I mean? Boom. And so I said, "Hey,"
95
and so
Camry.
So immediately my posture is, man, who are these people? Like, I'm in Stockton.
Exactly.
I don't know who you are. Like, you drove up way too quick. And so I'm like, ready, like, what's up, dude? And
man, it started coming out.
And then they break out, oh, do you know where the walking trail? I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's over here. But was I racially profiling them? No, but it's the city I'm living in,
What you didn't know is that they want to find out where the trail was so they could dump the body.
Where they could bury the body.
So they can bury the body. Well, it was talked about, I just went to Israel this year. Check this out. I went to Israel this year with my wife. She rocked it at 24 weeks pregnant. She went to Israel. So we went to Israel. So Israel is known for the fact that they will profile. They will look and see.
Oh yeah.
And so I remember
I've been stopped there.
I got stopped.
Yeah.
I got stopped. I was the caboose. So if you've ever been a large, international trip, there's always somebody kind of making sure that nobody's left behind. So I was that guy, making sure no one's left behind. And I was, they asked me, we're coming back, and they went through the thing. Hey, sir, where have you, what are you doing here? Where you been? Now, those of you maybe are on the podcast, can't see me, but I got, I have darker skin, black hair, I look. People ask me, are you Egyptian? Are you Arab? Are you Indian? Like I've got it all. You know what I mean? Like, you Hawaiian?
Do you want to settle that right now? You want to settle that right now for everyone, or you just want everyone keep guessing? Or
yeah, I'm keep guessing. Yeah, what race am I? What race am I? Whatever gives me a discount, whatever food place I'm eating at. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So but they called me out because, like, hey, he looks like he could be, like a potential threat.
Of course.
And that's what they do all day. They do all day, and it's one of the safest, I know it's crazy over there, but, one of the safest countries and it could be in. And but anyway, so I was pulled out, and I mean, just go, you look the part, maybe, and so,
but to the question of, and that's fine. I mean, in Israel, they can do whatever they want. Every country, and by the way, to act as if racism is an American-made invention is ridiculous. You notice that none of these. Okay, LeBron James. Okay, he tweeted this, right? So I'm not like making stuff up. You can follow him on Twitter. I don't, but I found it. The bottom line is, he has the nerve to talk about America like this. Yet, do you know how racist they are in the place where they're selling his shoes in China? Like, in every other part of the world. I mean, talk about racism.
The guy's got $1 billion contract with Nike. The guy's got this huge contract. I mean, this guy has made more money than any of us combined will ever see, and he's here throwing rocks at America that, due to capitalism, due to the freedom we have, that he's able to make literally billions, or $8 billion, I think it was billions, but millions upon millions of dollars. And it's that's another subject.
Well, what I'm saying though is like
about sport athletes and actors. We talked about it last week. We're joking about these millionaires, the struggles of COVID. It's like, listen, you got your yacht, you got your mansion, you know what I mean? Like,
chill out.
It's just like, listen, maybe at one point you're very connected to down to earth reality, but you live in a higher tier of society that you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
Right.
You live in a you're in a castle now. You could say, figuratively. So, it's just kind of hard where some of these athletes come out and it's like, dude, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, to suggest that there wouldn't, it's just irritating to me when people make it sound like America is the birthplace of racism, when it
No.
wasn't even America that began the slave trade. It wasn't America. Now, for sure, we had we were guilty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guilty is
Yeah.
charged.
Yeah.
Whatever. I still think this is the greatest place on earth, and it's one of the greatest places on earth because we were amongst the first to get rid of the slave trade. We're to end slavery. We weren't the first, but
Yeah.
we were among the
Yeah.
first, and that's super important. And so I think that it's a part of our history. It's a terrible part of our history, but nonetheless, it teaches and shows. Like someone else tweeted, because all these stars are tweeting. Like one of them said, "How do I tell my son about this?" Pretty easily, right? That there are people in the world that are bad. How about you start there? There are evil people in the world, and there are people that aren't going to love you, that aren't going to like you, and you need to be careful, right? I mean, that's pretty simple. I mean, let's just be honest. You have a better chance of being shot on the streets of Chicago than you do in Georgia. That's the truth based on per capita basis. So, I mean, but the idea though that you asked earlier, okay, will racism ever go away? The answer to that is no. Racism will never go away because racism is a sin. And it's a part of the human condition to be sinful and to have a sin nature. It's to prejudge, like you mentioned, like a prejudice. To prejudge someone based on color is racist, but you can prejudge people based on a lot of things.
Yeah.
You prejudge a person based on, like we've done a little bit already about your money, like
Well, you
like,
can. You look at someone as like growing up in school. What shoes you got? What
yeah,
clothes
of
you
course,
wearing?
of
So you
course,
know what I mean. Shout out to all you
that's all
teenagers out
prejudice.
there.
Yeah.
It's all even do it as adults. You know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically reliving high school just with But we look at someone. We look at what they're wearing. We look at kind of their condition, and we're prejudging. You know what I mean?
You know
And
what's ironic though is we are not even okay right now on in college in culture. We're putting people's value based on their color and their gender identification and their sexual orientation. So I mean, if you're gay, if you are a woman, if you're a black gay woman, it's like you rise up this social ladder somehow, and that you're more more woke or something like this.
yeah.
This
Woke Nation.
idea of I think this idea is flies in the face of what Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about in his speech, the famous "I Have a Dream" speech. He said, I want my children to grow up in a nation that will not judge them by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Yeah.
But if you look at the argument today, it has nothing to do with character. It has to do with your color, your gender identification, your sexual orientation. And that's the exact opposite. That is racism. That's the definition of it.
Going back to Bruce Jenner, he had this, sex change and everything, Olympic athlete. When he came out and then when he began to go through his transition, it was like this guy, like even more than a Nobel Prize. You know what I mean? He was celebrated and brought, it's a him. It's a him. Sorry, it's a him.
Yeah.
Biologically, to him. So, but celebrated and brought out and encouraged and just made of this icon, this cultural icon of this generation, because he had the will to come out and to change, and he was celebrated. And he empowered all these people based on. I mean, the guy won he got more credit for coming out as a woman than being an Olympic athlete. You know what I mean? Like, he got more, so again, it shows you the fact that, he comes out, he's against the grain, he's so strong what you're doing. It's a horrible example to look up to. And that's the time we're living in, situations like that, and individuals who come out in such a way. So, and the more aggressive it's like, the better. It's like, oh, well, you're, okay, that's okay. It's just really disturbing, and signs of the times we live in. The fact that these people are being glorified for being just completely anti-God. And again, those of you listening to Daily Radical, we are a straightforward Christian, Bible believing, people, and these are the more anti-God they can become, the more they're glorified to be icons and idols to be looked up to.
Yeah.
And it's completely It's ridiculous. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
and this is the heart of what I'm saying. I think. So Bruce Jenner, um, he became, I don't remember what he made his name, woman's name, I think now, I'm not sure, but this is the point, is like you said, he went on, I think he won an award. I think it was like ESPN. I don't remember. It was a long time now,
Yeah, yeah,
years back, 5 or so maybe 6 years. I
yeah.
don't remember how long now, but so he wins this award. But you notice,
I think he
what did
got
he,
bored. I think he went bored and went back, becoming a man.
oh, did he got
He got
bored?
bored. Went back. Yeah, he got bored. Okay, okay. I did the woman thing. I'll go back to being a man. And then go
So
ahead. Sorry.
no, so it's like, okay, what are we like honoring him for? Like what brave thing did he really do?
What did he accomplish?
Like, was it a character trait? Is it like a spiritual thing? You know, why would we care? Okay, here's the thing, like culturally, okay, biblically we know it's a sin. Like, I mean, I suppose to change your gender. Ooh, that's a good question. Yes, to wear that which pertaineth to a woman. That's not
Yeah.
right. I was thinking of my oh, that'd be a bigger conversation. The question
Mm,
becomes the
writing
question
it down for
becomes
night.
yeah,
Check out episode 11.
okay, this is the
Is
question. When homosexuality, okay, when is someone a homosexual? This is the theological side of me coming out now. When are you a homosexual? Uh for instance, like we know in the Bible, homosexuality is a sin. If you're listening to
mhm,
this, I'm sorry, it's in the Bible. We'd love to talk to you about that later. We can have that discussion. You know, feel free, reach out on Instagram,
yeah.
YouTube. But it's a sin in the Bible. It's taught in the Bible. However, what makes homosexuality a sin,
Mhm,
right? What makes homosexuality a sin is the act of
yeah.
homosexuality. There are plenty of people who battle homosexual tendencies in our churches, but they're
Mhm,
not engaged in homosexual activity. They're not homosexuals. They battle it, but they
mhm,
have not submitted to that
mhm,
lifestyle. So
yeah.
so that's what I meant when I said, and that's my opinion. You know, you can fight with me if you want,
Yeah.
but but so what I'm saying is it necessarily wrong if he felt like a woman, or you know thought, or you know whatever,
Well, I
thought he was a
mean,
woman.
then
You know,
if we sin first begins in the mind. First conceived in the mind, and
sure,
then when it becomes an action, that is when it's acted out, and then that's sin. So um is if I think, let's talk about this theologically. If I think to look at pornography, or if I'm fighting with, maybe I want to smoke a cigarette, or and drinking and smoking is destroying the temple of the body, and anyway, so I think about these things, is in the same category as if I'm thinking of homosexual thoughts. Now, all these things are in the mind, but not
yeah,
acted out. And again, I'm not trying to say is one sin greater than the other. It's sin.
yeah,
One, obviously, some are more grotesque and more, I think, offensive. But again, that could be argued. But these are conceived in the mind but not acted out. Are they in the same? I mean, I would believe they'd be in the same field of sin,
yeah,
but not yet acted upon.
yeah. So Jesus makes this a clear picture. Now, there's a whole discussion about the Sermon on the Mount and what it actually means, but nonetheless, he says that if you looketh unto a woman to lust after her, you've
Mm-hmm.
already committed this in your heart. He said if you hate your brother, you know, he goes into, you know, lusts and hate and this type of thing. So these are sins of the heart, right? It's what's going on in your heart. Now, does that mean every time you think about it, that's a sin, right?
Are we are we talk
The scripture does talk about casting down imaginations, but
So
I
when
think
when it comes to the mind, in the moment, like in the moment it comes to the mind, because as a man, let's talk about lust. One walks by, quick as the brain works. Okay, that's an attractive individual. And they say, this is a second look that gets you.
sure.
Look at her in the lust. So the fact that, and again, I apologize, I can cut you off. I think you're about to
No,
explain this, but the fact that it comes to the mind, but when you dwell on the thought and entertain the thought, that's when it becomes, are we talking, that's when it becomes sin, when it's dwelt
yeah.
upon,
I mean,
when it goes beyond the first initial moment, it goes, okay, now I'm going to think about this and ponder this for a little bit longer than just a split second it came
yeah.
into my mind.
Yeah, I mean that's how we've always explained it, right? Like that the second look, we say that even though that's not actually in the Bible, right? But nonetheless, we've quoted it like it is many times.
Yeah.
But the idea is, the scripture says, I think it's in the book of James, when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. Sin, when it is finished, it bringeth forth death. Yeah. So what is lust then? Is lust one look? Is what lust one thought? I think that you're going to have a hard time showing that it's one thought, because this would also, what separates this from temptation? Jesus was tempted 3 times by Satan, at least a minimum of 3 times we saw.
Yeah.
He's tempted. So what does that mean? Like, how is he truly tempted if he never thought like about it? Like, yeah. I think he would have had to at least pondered maybe it doesn't actually say he thought about it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's implied. And so it's not necessarily a thought. So a lot of times what we say is, you can't stop a bird from landing on your head. You heard this a lot, but you can stop it from making a nest, Yeah. And that's how we've always, categorized that. So, and I agree with that sentiment. And so it's the thought isn't necessarily the sin, it's the revisiting. And I think that's where it creates that lustful, in particular, when we're talking about pornography or sexual sins, it can also be, when you're desiring, you mentioned like cigarettes, alcohol, stuff like this. There's a physiological issue going on there of addiction, but nonetheless, I think when your mind is steady on sin, I think that becomes like, or hatred. Let's just take hatred. That's a good one. When a thought might come in your mind, like, man, I really don't like that person. But when, you know what I mean? But when it seeps in,
I have those often of multiple people. Constantly.
Yeah. Anyway, it's true. I mean, like, you're not going to like everyone all the time, but I think hatred is a strong, when you have aught, in your heart.
Well, let's think about this too. Talk about lust. Is lust only for sexual? Let's talk about a car. I'm looking at Instagram, and I'm looking at a friend of mine or someone I'm acquainted to, or a celebrity, and I see just whatever it could be, not always money. I can see what they have that I don't, and then I begin to obsess and fixate of like fantasizing and wanting and envying and being jealous of what they have that I don't have. I'm lusting for, again, I like cars, you like any dude, but I do find myself like, I'm looking at a vehicle and I'm like really just like desiring this vehicle. I've actually caught myself saying, man, I think this, I'm like, it goes beyond just like, man, that's cool, man, that'd be awesome to have one day. But it doesn't turn into lust when we're just kind of obsessively, and I think it's a big issue now, a big thing especially with, it's always been there, envy, jealousy, wanting. But with social media, I mean, Instagram or anything at your fingertips, you can look inside someone else's life, and to want it. And let's be honest out there, those listening, you can say you've mentally have played out huge scenarios of whatever particular fixation you have beyond the normal. That's interesting. I wonder what that'll be like. And I believe that is entertaining of lust as well. Great lust beyond just for a woman or for a woman for a man. So
so okay, so if you're in terms of like lust, right? And I think what you're talking about with like a car or possession would fall more in the category of a covetous or coveting. Or
covetousness.
envy. I think it's John that says all that's in the world is the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes. Is it lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes? And the pride of life.
Yeah.
I think he uses the word lust twice. I'm not sure. But the point is that these 3 sins capture, these 3 categories capture every sin that there is. Mm-hmm. Flesh, eyes, pride of life. And so every one of our temptations can be categorized in these 3. And you see a parallel in the story of, as we mentioned earlier, Jesus and Matthew. He had 3 temptations. You see another parallel that happens in Genesis. It begins with Genesis with Eve. She sees that the tree is good for food, make one wise and pleasant to look at. So there's 3 categories there. But anyway, so it's an interesting point. I'm not really sure how we got there.
We're getting deep in theology today, ladies and gentlemen. if you have not yet, if you have listened to this podcast for any length of time and have not hit that subscribe button or have not yet followed us on Spotify, do that right now. Hit that pause button, hit the subscribe, follow us on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast, The Daily Radical with Chris and Micah. Want to put that plug in there, and we're talking about, these are the things I think some of you have wondered and thought about, and I'm happy that we're cracking this open and discussing this, because I think a lot of Christians have a lot of questions that just whether they're afraid to ask or just haven't had the opportunity to kind of hear a real discussion about it.
Yeah. So let's jump into this. On this topic of racism and all this stuff, there was an interesting drama that unfolded the other day. So we're in the month of May. We're recording this. This is being released May 8th. So we just came off of Cinco de Mayo, right?
How was your Cinco de Mayo, Micah?
It was great. I had some tacos.
I know your wife is Hispanic. I know she grew up in Southern California. Like I grew up in SoCal too. I grew up in San Diego. And she makes the pozole she made us.
Yes.
Your wife is very kind, with the babies coming for us, and she's been, kind of feeding us. Oh, she's an incredible cook. I know. So anyway, so I feel Cinco de Mayo was of some significance possibly for the Johnson household. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm like, I don't mess with the flow here.
It is definitely a holiday. It is definitely a holiday. And I appreciate that. The pozole. I'm not a huge Mexican soup fan.
You mentioned that. Yeah.
I don't like menudo at all. I don't even know if I said it correctly. Menudo.
Menudo.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Gosh, yes, I can't even say it. I don't like eating it either.
Whatever you're gonna guess what ethnicity I am, he's like, okay, he's not Hispanic. I don't know. But that's the thing. So my wife's dad's side is all, they're all Mexican, Tucson, Arizona. And I remember when I went to visit her first time I went to go visit, went there and to introduce the family and in Arizona, and they talk about menudo, and it was like they're talking this thing up. And I remember when I finally had it, I had the first bowl, and I was like, okay, but out of respect, I'm gonna have two bowls. Just to really lock it in, like this guy's in. Cause I really do like my wife, but I really want to impress the family.
You still do?
I had two bowls, but
nice.
so, and I'm usually, I grew up in San Diego, so I had a lot of Mexican food, but the menudo was something different. That was something brand new to me that I never had before.
Yeah. I've tried it. I'm not a fan. The pozole is good. When my wife makes pozole, she makes it really good. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's really good.
But yeah, menudo, no, you can have that. But anyway, so we had tacos, and it was Tuesday, so like everyone's like Taco Tuesday on Cinco de Mayo. It's like leap year or something.
It was like it would have been the most epic Cinco de Mayo this country's ever seen before. Which funny things, the history of Cinco de Mayo, I'm not getting to today, but it was only happened in a small region of Mexico. It wasn't it wasn't a countrywide thing. The Cinco de Mayo was one area. This liberation. Anyway.
So yeah, I don't even know the whole story of Cinco de Mayo. I assumed it was the Mexican Independence Day equivalent. That's what I assume. Is that not true then?
No, man, here I go, nothing research. No, from what I understand, it was like it wasn't independence, but it was a region of Mexico, not Mexico nationwide.
Okay, well, either way, it's turned in.
If someone fact check me, send us in the true history of Cinco de Mayo.
It seems to me that it's more of like a nationwide celebration of either the nation, the country, or it's just identity, and that's okay. Either way, it's okay to me.
Okay.
So anyway,
you have to drink beer though.
Well, that's all right. Well, so anyway, it's not all right.
Wait, you just said it was all right to drink beer? Okay, no, I'm just kidding.
That's not okay. We don't endorse alcohol in any form.
No.
But the reason I'm bringing this up is it would have been a normal Cinco de Mayo. Passed by, we'd have had some tacos and no beer at all, and it would have been fine. But there was a Facebook kind of a quick flurry, and there was some people that were upset, and now admittedly I'm in in California, we're different out here, and so growing up in the Midwest, as I did, we didn't really see too many people celebrating Cinco de Mayo very, very at all, actually. But in California, I did notice we were driving. We were in quarantine. My wife and I were driving. I don't remember where we were going. We get out at least once a day, just go driving.
Healthy, dude. Yeah.
And
get some sunlight.
We're driving down the road, and there's this huge caravan of like cool looking trucks, cars, and everything. That was really awesome. And they had like Mexican flags flying out of their cars. Like, I mean, talking like full size, flags.
Yeah.
And I guess I think I've seen this before. I mean, people do it pretty much, but I think it's more intense during the quarantine because all you could do is drive. So everyone had their flags out. Yeah. And I said, and it wasn't even on Tuesday. It was more like over the weekend. Anyway, I just thought it was great. Like it didn't even bother. I didn't even think twice about it. Well, anyway, some people got on Facebook and they were kind of upset about it, and they were expressing, I was talking about it with a few people, and they were like really upset that somehow why they're mad that Mexican people are celebrating Cinco de Mayo in the United States, and they're mad because this is America. You shouldn't be celebrating anyone else's, Independence Day or flying any other flags. And I just thought that's ridiculously ignorant, and I just think it's silly to have that. Now I might be making some people mad right now, but I don't really care because I think that's ridiculous. When you start off your post as one individual did with, you can think I'm racist if you want to. That's prepare yourself for a racist comment because it's coming. And I don't know if I would call it racist, more xenophobic, or more just idiotic. I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is there are people that are upset about it, about Cinco de Mayo, and people celebrating.
I think and I've talked to people about this. I think people who are, maybe in that category, that's like, they're in America, they shouldn't be, celebrating Cinco de Mayo. Again, I think there's no problem with it. I think why I would have a problem with it is that, if the people are bashing America and talking trash on America and that get to enjoy those freedoms, and then, those are the people I'm like, wait a minute, like you definitely have the freedom to celebrate, no one's stopping you. But you don't bash the country that gives you the freedom to even do that. I think that's where I would have like the biggest challenge, and I've got maybe frustrated in the past. Again, growing up in San Diego, I mean, Mexican culture was what I've been around. So, it's a cool day, definitely, festive, but I think the people, at least I think the people I've talked to got frustrated that those very same people that, maybe in that caravan, go and will bash and talk trash on this country. I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem here, and it's like, then, again, you don't bash the country you're in, enjoy the freedoms. But I think that's the problem with some people is that they feel like, hey, and then some people just straight up like, what are you doing? But when those very same people start bashing America, I'm like, listen, man, like, that's where I think I have an issue is when people start going that route, so.
Yeah. And people, they come out and they say, you're in America, you left your country, you're here now, love this country. Well, just because they left their country doesn't mean they don't love where they came from. We have a lot of refugees in this country that they came because we promised them that we would keep them safe. Bring us your poor, your needy, we're going to take you in. That's a part of who we are as a nation. That doesn't mean they didn't love their country. That means that they could no longer survive and live in freedom in their country. So there's a lot of people that have deep nationalistic pride and that's okay. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
As long as, I agree with you, as long as that pride isn't turned into a hatred or a some sort of like vitriol against the current country that you're living in. Now that would be ironic. So I don't think that you can't fly. Like, that's just ridiculous. Now, I would have an issue if you're flying a flag of a nation state or a place, a country that is anti-America. It is well outspokenly against, like Iran or something like this. Like I wouldn't be okay with that. Like that's basically what you're saying then is you stand for everything that Iran stands for. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but it would seem to me that if you have ill intentions toward our country, then but that's not what these people are doing. That's not what's going on. They're
No,
celebrating the
this
independent,
celebrating
at least
culture, you know, the
culture. Yeah.
heritage.
And I think that's okay. I mean,
That's
that's
good.
absolutely okay. And my
I
wife,
live.
so anyway, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Your wife.
Well, my wife was saying, like, oh, I'm going to teach, like, and it brings up an interesting point about culture. Um, but my wife was saying, like, what do you think, like, you teach our daughter? Like, cause she's Hispanic. And so my daughter's, part Hispanic.
Hmm.
And she's like, this is a part of her heritage. I said, yeah, it is a part of her heritage. Technically, I said, but she's not, from Mexico. Like, she's from America. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's that, like, dynamic. Like, I don't like, I've really been influenced by a man named Larry Elder. I feel like what his position on African American, and like with that statement, that phrase, I don't like it either. Like
I
he's
see.
convinced me. I don't like that anymore. It's black. Like, I'm black. I'm half black,
Yeah,
half white.
yeah.
I'm not African American. I've
No.
never been to Africa. I have no ties to Africa. I'm an American. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And that's what's ridiculous. But so this is my heritage. So I just find it an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. And I lived in Maine. Me and my wife lived in Maine for about a year and a half, and we spent a couple summers there just doing some traveling ministry stuff. And there's a huge French influence, French Canadian influence
Mm.
over there. And so kind of the same thing. And they have their festivals and they have their days where there's a bunch of like French Canadian flags being flown around, and whatnot. So, and we have different regions, different places have, higher population, have different cultures that have their own festivals and holidays. And so, but anyway, well, let me, we're kind of, wrapping things up here in the show, but I did want to talk about this interesting article that I read about people working from home, schools being done online now. As we know, you cannot, many companies have put, you working remotely from your home. Schools, colleges are having you work from home as well. But during this pandemic, we have seen an increase of a lot of companies have begun to deploy a higher rate of monitoring software that records employees' internet activities, active work hours, but also we have colleges and some schools that are actually using the camera to monitor face movement on the students to kind of see, what they're doing, any suspicious activities. So with this pandemic, we've seen a big increase basically of companies, universities, and schools keeping an eye on their people really closely. And beyond simply, are you doing your job? Are you checked in? But with so many people working from home, they have been attention tracking. They have been going way beyond the norm to
Mm.
make almost creepy, up to even some of these tools on some of these apps actually provide to snap photos or videos from the computer or webcam and records audio from the mic, like real extreme. And this technology has been around for a while. It's not something brand new, but with everybody working from home and just kind of, we've seen we've seen an increase in that monitoring from these different establishments. So I thought it was really interesting that
Yeah.
they keep an eye on you. I think so.
They're
If you get
watching.
a webcam on, you could be watched right now,
Yep.
right now.
They're tuning in to the Daily Radical
They're
currently as
tuning
we
into the
speak.
Daily Radical.
I
Daily
mean,
Radical.
it's one of those things where if you don't trust your employees are doing their job, it's like if you have one of those, I don't know, to me, there's certain jobs like there's a certain level of engagement and I get, accountability and all that stuff. But it's like if you're not trusting them to do their job, then why are they working for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if you don't trust them to work from home, then why are you
yeah,
trusting them to work at the office?
yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's it
But
speaks to
yeah,
more of a culture than a like what I mean a culture inside of the office
mhm,
than it would like people not working. Like everyone I know that's a good worker, like they're diligent, they're faithful,
yeah, yeah,
they're going to work from home, they're going to work from their office, they're going to get the job done,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And everyone that's not I don't know that many, but I'm assuming if they're not working, you know, from home. They're not going to work from their office either. They're
Yeah.
probably doing something else, playing like battle. I don't know what games they play on their phone,
Yeah, I know.
solitaire or something on their
Yeah, I
computer.
know. I know. The thing is like, oh, we can't watch you at work anymore and monitor your progress. So we're gonna make sure we can get double eyes on you
Yeah.
from the home. And my mother-in-law works for a company that she works remotely, and not just for during this COVID-19 time, but it's just part of her job remotely. But she does have the software on her work laptop that when she's logged in for work hours, the mouse has to be they're monitoring her activity, and a couple times we're visiting her, and she was working, and she was mentioning right now I'm in between meetings, but I have to still be active, and so she had to go, and she ran out. I had to touch my mouth. She ran out for get a cup of coffee, so I had to make sure I'm there, even though there's nothing going on. I have to still show that I'm active there, and so
Nice.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very interesting.
She should just build like a robot to like bounce the mouse back and forth.
Or it's I know, right?
Just slide the mouse
We
back
see
and forth.
some very consistent patterns on your workstation, like so. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. You know what I mean? They keep an eye on you, and so don't be watching me. I'm not doing anything too productive,
Sure.
So,
well, speaking of interesting, I found this to be an interesting today topic. So Donald Trump's back in the news, of course, and I just think he's doing something awesome. According to the Babylon Bee, Donald Trump just signed an executive order preventing the release of the new Twilight book, and I for one am thankful for this.
Trump.
Yes,
Thank you, Trump.
he put it in its place. But no, in other news, this is actually a true story that came out.
Okay, Micah. Okay, it's a true story.
So this is not Babylon Bee. This is legit, but it's just as funny as the Babylon Bee. So you're gonna appreciate this today. A woman in Kentucky. She was in the store shopping in Kentucky, and I'm gonna go ahead and share this with you on your screen so you can see for our YouTube audience. Sorry for everyone else, you can't see it. Kentucky woman, on the podcast. A Kentucky woman cuts a hole in the mask because she says it makes it easier to breathe. Like, for those of you who can't see, she cut a slit inside of the face mask that she's wearing, and she says, I couldn't breathe, so I cut a hole in the mask. Just so everyone knows, it's supposed to cover your nose and mouth. Like, I went to the store the other day, and there's people that have the mask like over, like just like this, like if you can't see me on the podcast,
not covering the nose,
not covering the nose, just covering the mouth. It's like, you're doing it wrong. Like, it's not how it works.
So, dude, so we like I've said in the podcast before, my sons have come, and they came as preemies. So we've been every day. We go to the NICU and visit them. So I wear a mask every day to go see the boys and everything. And and so you see them. I've gotten told, it was under my nose. Hey, sir, can you put that up? But I'm telling you, like if you have not put on, and it's like a cloth mask too. It is like you're suffocating for air. It is the worst thing talking to, and even the health professionals that are there, like, I'm so sorry. It is awful, and it's just it's a wreck, but
I bought some bandanas the other day, so I'm gonna. I feel like I'm getting ready to rob a bank every time I put it on, and
oh my gosh,
it's pretty funny. But you can't get into Costco without it. Like, I know
you
I
don't.
go to Costco
I think you know what? I think my wife went to Safeway today, and they were making everybody wear masks going in.
Yeah,
it's like stepped up. It's stepped up overall. And so it's getting wacky out there. So
are we going to have to wear masks at church? I think we should wear masks when we go back to church. I think it's going to be a thing.
Like this Sunday, huh?
I think it's going to be a thing. I think when we go back to church, we're not going back to church this Sunday, just for the record. But when we go back to church, I think that masks are going to be a part. Now, churches are opening up, by the way, not in California, but in other states.
California.
And they're having masks and socially distant. I talked to a friend pastoring in a different state, and what they did is they separated out their services. So they have now 2 or 3 services on Sunday to make sure that there's not that many people in the service, and that they can spread them out, and they have to have masks on, and it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's going to be a new norm. I'm really curious. You know,
Yeah.
we're living here in California. We still have like, you know, real strict rules and regulations. So we'll see what's going to be happening, you know. But one thing that this time has brought out is the Daily Radical, you know. So those of you listening, make sure you get connected to us, subscribe, connect, and you know, always a great time with me and Micah here, just talking about the world and as it turns in this time. And so thanks, COVID, for the birth of the Daily Radical. And, you know, so if you're out there, get connected to us. We are just having a good time. And we got more shows to come. This is actually show number 10.
Number 10.
This is show 10.
The
show
ace.
10. We are 10 deep. With the ace. We are 10 deep. And so if you got nothing to do, go and begin to binge out the other 9 episodes. Make it part of your daily routine, and it's only gonna get better every time.
Can only get better from here.
It's only gonna get better from here. It can't get worse. It can't get worse. And so,
well.
Anyway, that is it for us today on the Daily Radical. I am Chris. That is Micah, and you guys take care. Be safe out there. Be good to one another, and we'll catch you next time.
See you next time.